All right, so here we are with Glenda Dawson. Um, and this is The Age of Gaia, episode number 4. So it's all part of the Conscious Awakening Network journey. And Glenda also happens to be on Conscious Awakening Network. So it's a real pleasure to invite you and introduce you and uh, have this conversation wherever it goes. We haven't rehearsed anything, so I'm just curious to see where we go, what we do, what we talk about, and what comes from spirit guidance as part of this awakening process that we're on, this collective journey into the new earth. So, Glenda, do you want to just start off with introducing yourself?
Well, first, thank you for having me, Kiara. It's a pleasure always to talk to you. No, we have not rehearsed anything because it's more natural this way. And I'm Glenda Dawson from Glenda's Magical Creations, the Spiritual Center, and the channel on Can. I have been in spirituality since before the age of 2. I was blessed to have my archangels, my team, come to me and tell me the day before I was age of 2 that I could walk, because up to there I couldn't. And I had been told I wasn't going to be able to, and I have not stopped since then. I pride myself in being as open as I can be. And I pride myself in trying to help not just the beings that are here, but also Earth, Terra, Gaia, in whatever capacity I can. I decided when I was very young to study, and I studied and studied, and anything and everything about healing, energy healing, communicating with spirits, communicating with animals, communicating with plants too. So I don't stop. The more knowledge I feel I have, the better understanding I have of everything that occurs.
And you're also very interdimensionally open. So one of your gifts is finding lost people.
Yes.
Across dimensions and on the physical planet.
Yes, I am very blessed that I have been given that gift and I had allowed it to blossom. Finding people, finding animals, communicating with them. We have a mutual acquaintance or friend that I did help when he was in South America, and he was due in US, wasn't appearing. So I had to report that he was fine. He was just didn't realize the time because he was enjoying the peacefulness of nature so much that he just forgot. So so I'm very blessed. I have found for people who are hybrids, some of their hybrid family, and I have helped them join energy places. So.
You faded there for a bit. Could you repeat that last sentence?
And that's basically, whether they're hybrids or anything, communicate and join with their families. Sometimes we are hybrid mothers or hybrid fathers, and I help them find those children, and I help them find their unit, their family.
So for those who may not be aware, how do you define hybrid?
Hybrid to me is a combination of human DNA and galactic DNA. And those are beings that are born with certain percentage of both. Some are more human-like, some are more galactic-like. And some cannot be on this earth because they cannot handle the capacity. They don't have enough of human DNA to handle the capacity of breathing and the density here. So they stay in space or in other planets.
So would most of these be born as humans in human bodies, or would they be the result of extraterrestrial birth hybridization?
I have experienced both.
Yeah,
I've experienced those that have been that are surviving and thriving on Earth, but you can see that they can move storms. You know, they can stop fires. They can stop. They can do a lot more that than a regular human could.
Right.
And their capability is so much greater with their gifts. And then I have experience on the other side where it's too dense for them to be here. They cannot breathe the air. They cannot process, like, you know, with lungs. Their facial features are different. So it's not a human body, basically. They still have human features. Like some may have ears, or some may have both eyes, you know, versus the one eye that everybody's used to, or those little tiny eyes. It's very different. But it's like, you know, when people decide to take two different types of roses and combine them, right? A new type of rose comes out.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, that is something I feel is we are preparing for on a collective level at some point. As we shift to a new vibrational frequency on a collective level, the planet herself is going through this great awakening. She's following an evolutionary path, and part of that is a new root race. So the next root race I sense is going to be what you would call hybrid. As children come in, they'll be much more open, much more receptive, much more connected. The gifts that they carry, the awareness that they have, their ability to change weather patterns and human consciousness, and be more cooperative in this journey with Gaia, with Mother Earth. You know, here we are as humans, just, you know, kicking and screaming and resisting and denying who we are and making a mess along the way. And I think this is the next generation that's coming in.
The next generation that's coming in, I believe, is going to work together a lot more than we are. Right now, we're separated. We're one, me. And this, you know, this next generation, you could see it even now, where even kindergarten kids act so different, you know, than they used to 20 years ago. They're learning how to play with each other more and sharing and helping each other, instead of, this is my toy, I'm keeping it, and that's it, you know. So I've observed that within itself. I already can see the changes.
So what percentage would you say are these hybrid or galactic children at this time?
At this time, I would say about 25% right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is a big number.
Yeah.
That's actually quite hopeful.
I really perceive it as around 25. You know, it may be a little less, a little more, but around 25%. I see a lot of differences, even from my children to my grandkids. I see the difference in them. They're more vocal. They're more awake. They start crawling faster. They start following objects faster. So it's completely different. Like I keep saying, that's the next generation. Watch out, because that's the generation that will definitely speak up for what's right.
Yeah.
Try to balance everything and try to keep this earth the pure earth, not the crazy polluted chaotic poor thing that is now.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to parents in terms of recognizing them firstly, and then supporting them in their growth?
Well, first of all, give them some type of empowerment. Let them feel like they have some control. If you're going to, I know that parents get very busy and they're just like, I'm going to just give them this and that. But if you're feeding them and they're making faces that they don't like that food, no, make a little adjustment. Give them the feeling that they are open to be themselves. Don't shut things down.
So not being overly protective.
Right. They could be protective, but they're not a helicopter parent. Let them explore. If you have a child that loves to crawl or starting to walk, yes, safety first, because they're still, they still have a body and they could still get injured. But create a space where they could be themselves there. Give them a choice. Empower them a little more, and don't make fun of them if they are saying we have an invisible friend, because you know what, they can see a lot more than you can.
Right. Yeah, and they can actually remind you and teach you to open up and remember as well.
Right. Well, I'm one of those believers that our children teach us. They come here to teach us lessons that we would not be able to learn any other way, and to open us up and to teach us how to be brave and how to be courageous and how to speak our truth, where before it was hard.
Well, our generation has gone through such a veil of conditioning, and previous generations as well, and we have to break through that. And look at this mass media today. Look at what's going on, the collective programming that we're all suffering from, how easy it is to deceive and manipulate humanity through the media, through manipulation, through mind control. And that's one thing that I see that the young generation needs some support with, because if we allow them to be programmed and conditioned in the same way that we have, rather than trusting their own truth, trusting their own visions, trusting their own feelings, then we're bringing them into our vibration rather than vice versa.
We're bringing them down into our vibrations instead of letting them stay up there. Yes. And I believe they're here to raise us up, not for us to be anchoring them down.
Right.
I was a very blessed person where my mother understood. My mother used to also experience dreams and see things and all that. She was very gifted herself. And my parent being very Christian, that that was devil stuff. So you didn't do that. And I was always questioning. I was always questioning everything. You tell me that, for example, the Bible is a great book, but you tell me that you shouldn't, it should only be, you shouldn't have relations with the same family, yada yada. But then, okay, how could Adam and Eve have all these kids and then repopulated the earth? There had to be other people. Where were they? Where are they? Who are they? And then, when I found out about Lilith, I was like, oh, okay. There's at least somebody else. Okay.
And Lilith is the archetype of the strong woman.
Mhm.
She's not controllable. She's not going to be bossed around, and that can be a little bit scary for a lot of men. So this
Yes.
is the new archetype, and also the new male archetype: someone who's strong but also gentle, someone who's a warrior but also a protector for Mother Earth, for the family, for the community, the nation, in a real way. The
Yeah.
difference between a soldier and a warrior is night and day. One who
Yes.
follows orders and one who trusts themselves and is here to protect and support this awakening.
Hmm. And support the family as a whole, support their
Yeah,
mate, support, and let them be able to take those steps that they need to take without feeling less of a man. I think in a partnership, both woman and man need to know when to let them go first, let them do whatever they need to do, because that's how you become stronger also.
right. So one other thing, you mentioned the new children, the gifted children that are coming in, supporting them in being who they are. And
Hmm.
the other thing I think, which is in the minds of a lot of people, is partnership. What
Hmm.
kind of right partnership can we allow into our life? Because there's
Mm.
such an imbalance so often, where one is
Yes.
dominating the other, repressing the other, denying the other, rather than really allowing each other to be who they are without fear, without jealousy, without manipulation and control, because we are all given a soul purpose.
Right.
And part of that is supporting each other, but another part of that is to find our own divine
Hmm.
purpose, to follow that fully, to, receive support, but not be held back
Exactly.
from our partners.
Right. Yes, being able to do what you came here for without feeling like you're hurting them or you're leaving them behind or they're not supporting you. It should be a balance.
Mm,
Uh, you know, not everybody, they always say a partnership is 100%. You're supposed to give 100%. Not everybody's at 100% every single day.
right,
So it's the combination of the two that makes you a partnership.
right.
Today you may be 20% and they may need to be 80. And tomorrow you're the 80 and they're the 20. It's
Mm,
the balance. And sometimes you just need to know when to say something or when to hear. Just listen. When to take those steps or when to just stay there or step back and let them take those steps.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And I do feel that more and more people are opening now to bring a quality of relationship into their life, which is
Yes.
more of that soulmate
Yes.
presence. It's like um, a, an agreement that you've made, and it may not just be one person. I don't know how that necessarily works. Some people say there's only one soulmate or twin flame, and that's going to be forever who you are meant to be with. I think there's many, many different ways and forms and at different times for different people. But someone that has that you have that agreement with,
Mhm.
that brings you together,
Mhm.
and not just the so many of us get into relationships for the wrong reasons.
Mhm.
Then it's like spend a whole life trying to fix things and you know get out of the drama that you create.
Right.
When that diverts us from what we really came for. So
Exactly.
the biggest question is, what am I here for? To really understand and to surrender to that, and then be
Mhm.
available, because this is the time of the great shift, and each of us needs to be willing to fulfill a life purpose in order for this planetary shift to take place.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm kind of with you, Kara. Each partner brings something, and maybe you just needed to be with that partner for a small amount of time to get you out of your shell, to learn that lesson, to move you forward, or for you to help them move forward. And then that's it. And there's nothing wrong with, sometimes you need to find a different partner. There's a lot of soulmates,
Right.
in my belief. You know, you could have a best friend that's a soulmate. You could have a daughter or a son that become your soulmate, or a parent that is your soulmate. It doesn't have to be necessarily a romantic relationship. And then as far as twin flames, I believe there could only be one twin flame, but that's just me, because it meant originally was one soul that divided in two, unless somehow they divided into more, but I believe it's just the one twin flame.
And
That
you
doesn't
believe that this is usually an opposite sex um,
not
reflection in this
usually.
life?
Not usually.
Okay.
I have seen twin flames where they're the same sex, but one is more, say if it's a women couple, okay. It could be that one is more, has more of the feminine, divine feminine in, so she blossomed that way. The other one has more of the divine masculine, and she blossoms that way. And it's just that they bring the energy, because it's about energy. It's not really about the physicality.
Right.
It's about the energy that you bring in with you.
So it could
And
also be what Carl Jung would refer to as the anima or the animus. So this is the aspect of you, which is the opposite half, which you're integrating. And
right,
as you integrate that, you find you don't need someone else outside of you to reflect it back. You're
right,
whole within yourself. And then if you're looking for a partner, it's coming from a place um, of sharing
right,
and allowing rather than needing and demanding.
exactly.
I also imagine that sometimes your twin flame may not be on this physical earth at the same time. That may
Exactly.
be a guide, there may be someone who's supporting from higher dimensions or inner earth dimensions. You know, there's so many aspects of us scattered around, and we're integrating all of it now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're coming to realize that um, this life is just one little drop of our whole existence.
Mm,
And we're finally starting to remember and bringing all that knowledge into the present, so then we could take it and rise and become better us,
mm,
and take care of our path, or what we came here for, with greater understanding,
mm,
which not everybody is ready to pick up their memories from their past lives, because they've gone through a lot at
yeah,
those moments.
yeah.
And but the idea that we could bring that knowledge forward and those lessons forward, so we could integrate and finally shed the unwanted stuff and move on with what we can use for our path. It's not easy, but it can be done. And it's every day. It's a process.
Right. So there's two aspects to this. One
Mhm,
is the personal journey, and the other is
mhm,
the collective
right,
journey or the planetary journey. So, I mean, on a personal level, we all get to make our decisions, and we're growing eventually into something beyond what we have been reflecting. What about the
mhm,
collective journeys? Like, this is what's fascinating for me. This particular time, being here at this time, in support of a larger evolutionary plan. And
mhm,
Gaia, as Planet Mother Earth, has her own plan. We are part of that. We're not separate from her.
mhm.
So, what do you see this being about?
Well, right
Well,
now, I think she's also shedding.
hmm,
You know, look at all the glaciers, right? and all the rain that we're getting and all the storms that we're getting. She's cleansing. She's finding that's her way of cleansing and reminding us that she will still be here.
Yeah.
Even after we're gone. Reminding us that she has a soul, she has a purpose herself. She wants to also shed this density and become into a higher dimension, vibrational level.
Yeah.
But she's letting us know, okay, I'm starting to shed. So come on, let's get moving. You know.
All the floods and the fires and the climate
Yes,
change.
Exactly. A lot of that, you know, I believe is her letting us know, excuse me, it's time to get going. This is the time. We don't have, you know, I have a time limit. I put myself in a time limit where I'm going to shed everything. If you guys come with me, good. If you don't, okay, we'll see you in another time. But
yeah.
so,
And as a reflection of her, we are shedding as a human collective. We're going through the shadows. We're releasing all the old patterns, and you know, some of it is showing up in political realms, economic realms. It's you know, the social identities, the change in culture that we're going through. It can be really difficult to integrate for a lot of people if they're identified with something old. It can be easy enough if we can surrender to the process. So part of surrendering to the process for me would be to understand the process, understand the journey. So what would you say in terms of that? Where is Mother Earth moving towards? What's her eventual plan as you attune to consciousness?
Yeah, I believe her eventual plan is to have be in a different level, higher, more peaceful, like it was in sort of like in the beginning, you know, where it was more peaceful. It was more nature integrated. Everything was able to communicate with everything. You felt you were a part of a whole. You were not separated into pieces. It was like a whole puzzle completed. It, you know, it wasn't your agenda, that agenda. You know, you're destroying Mother Earth because you're digging or you're doing this, you're doing that. I believe that she's going into that direction again. She's going through her rebirth, and all these storms. She's basically just giving us a tickle. I'm that way, so you know, you don't have much time. You know, and I say not much time, but it could be for her, it could be a million years, who knows? But I believe that this right now, she's going into a rebirth, a shedding of all this negative energy, a shedding of all this separation, a shedding of all this you, my, me, this, and she's letting go of all that because she's starting to realize that's bringing her down and it's bringing her basic death if, you know, she doesn't learn how.
Happens to human civilization in the process.
Yes. Yeah. So I believe that humans are here to grow with her and to rebirth, go into a rebirth with her, to be like we were in the very beginning. In the very beginning, I don't believe we were all about, you know, the wars and this and that. I believe that there's many, many, many years that were never put in history books, as they say.
Sure.
But, you know, in those times, everything was told verbally from one generation to another, and that's how we learned. And that's how it was. People were evolving. Once they put it in writing, then everybody stuck to those exact things.
Yeah. So writing only began, what, 8,000, 9,000 years ago, or even less. Exactly. And so there's many cycles of human civilization, the Atlantean, the Lemurian, the Hyperborean, so many others.
Mhm.
And we've forgotten the names even.
Yes.
So it's like those memories survive, though. They're within our DNA, they're within the Akashic records.
Right.
So we can access that, and unconsciously we are accessing that. And my
Hmm.
sense is, in some of the transitional periods, there's been catastrophes. So we remember those catastrophes. And then we think that this has to be our future as well. And I don't know. And what would you say? Do we have to go through a certain level of catastrophe, or can we make it more gracefully?
I think that this time we can make it more gracefully.
Mm,
I don't believe we have to go through a total destruction chaos period.
mm,
But I think she's giving us the chance to help her make it gracefully.
mm,
I believe that we're given the chance to open up, to evolve, to raise our vibrations personally. So then as a collective, we do that and then help her make it easily. So we could transition easily.
mm,
There's a tradition in the Tao that says between 28 and 30 years is going to be total destruction.
mm,
Okay. And then it's going to be the new beginning.
mm,
I believe we're given a certain amount of time to get our act together, basically, get ourselves in the right wavelength, in the right spiritual vibration, in the right looking at things differently, and take off all those blinders that we have put on ourselves, basically,
mm,
because we have allowed it to happen.
mm,
So once we start taking those layers of all those blinders and start looking at humans as souls instead of just the physical, start looking at each other as soul families instead of blood families, and oh, I don't like you because you got green eyes, and I don't like you because you got dark eyes. Get past that. Get to the soul, to what is really the true being.
right, right. And it's the same with yourself. We judge ourselves even more than we judge someone else.
Yes,
And so in judging, we also limit. So
exactly.
as we limit ourselves, we forget the beauty, the power, the amazing diversity of gifts that we carry, that we brought
Mm-hmm,
from the spirit world, that we brought from the one self that we are.
mm-hmm,
So recognizing and remembering who we are is such a big part of this. And I think this is the opportunity as we go through the birth canal
mm-hmm,
of the new earth.
mm-hmm,
Um, we're being given back, or we can choose to remember. We can choose to um, um, receive and surrender to something
mm-hmm.
beyond ourselves. And
Yes.
then that comes through in a way that we never imagined.
Mm. Yes. Like I said, a lot of people come to me and say, "Oh, I don't got gifts," and I'm looking at them, and they're screaming gifts, like you can see their energy and everything, and I'm like, "You have a lot of gifts. Just be open,
Yeah,
let it
yeah,
happen, reignite that." And once they start, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know. I didn't really," and
right.
you know. Oh, I used to talk to a friend when I was 5 years old. You obviously have a gift. You were you was just then you put your blinders on because somebody said, "Oh, you're crazy," or they don't exist. And so right now, Mother Earth is being very kind to us. Very kind to us. She's
And she,
giving us this opportunity
yeah,
to really be ourselves.
yeah. If she wanted to, she could just knock us off the face of the earth in a month.
Right.
It wouldn't
Exactly.
take so long.
She could
Right.
she could create all this water where everything drowns, everybody drowns, and the whole thing. And she's like, "Okay, fresh start. I took my shower, I took my bath,
Mm,
right?"
yeah, yeah. So
So,
one thing that I'm also noticing, Glenda, a lot of people are opening up, to their divinity, to their spiritual gifts. But at the same time, if they are still carrying a lot of density, heaviness, fear, illusion within their energy bodies, within the subconscious mind, it's very easy to get knocked off balance, to get ungrounded, and not have the enough of a personal self to be able to anchor the higher self.
Right.
So, in order to anchor the spiritual beingness, there needs to be something that, like I'm talking about the lower chakras, first, second, third chakras, having to do
Right.
with humanness.
Mhm.
So this divinity needs to come through our humanness. Otherwise, what I find in many people is there's a split. There's a human
Mhm.
aspect which is shadowed, unrecognized, and repressed. And then there's a spiritual aspect which isn't grounded enough because there's nothing to ground into.
Right. Yes. I've noticed some people are like that too. And I remind them when they come and they ask, of course, I remind them, go to nature,
Mm,
go to a park, walk around the woods, go to the beach. I
mm,
mean, there's nothing better than sinking your feet in the sand and letting the water come to you.
mm,
Close your eyes, listen to what's around you. If you just close your eyes, and even if you go um, in hiking, you close your eyes and you listen to the birds that you wouldn't pay attention to normally because you're just hiking. So you're just hiking. You're not just looking at the flower that's right there in front of you that Mother Earth gave you to look at and admire. Look at the plants, look at the birds, look at all the little creatures that are around
mm.
and listen to their sounds. Then you will start to not only ground yourself, but then you start to reunite
Right. Yeah.
spiritual being with the human being.
So being more present with your senses.
Exactly.
Then those senses expand to the subtle realms also. So you
Mm-hmm.
can become more interdimensional. But starting with being right here with where you are, what you are, sensations, feelings, experiences, sight, hearing, touch, the
Yeah.
normal everyday senses to be in gratitude and wonder. I mean, that's
Yes.
the mind of the child. They're in
Yes.
gratitude and wonder. And
Oh,
to return to that spirit rather
yes.
than, it's so caught up in a mental idea of where we're going. And
Exactly.
that can hold us back.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't like change for that reason
Mm,
because they cannot look at the wonder and look at it as an adventure.
yeah.
They look at it as, oh my God, everything is being torn down, breaking down, and what am I
Mm,
going to do? Well,
mm,
what did you do all this time? You didn't know the future before.
right.
You couldn't tell exactly what was going to go on. And you started walking, you started eating, you started talking, you started reading, and
Mm.
just go with it, right?
Well, that's a huge statement, Glenda, because there's so much chaos going on in the world today, eh,
Mm-hmm.
on every level.
On
I
every
mean,
level.
people wonder, is like, what's going to happen to this planet? What's going to happen to me? Fear comes up. And then, as soon
Mm-hmm.
as you're trapped in fear, then all you can see is the dark side.
Right.
How do you get past that? And how do you move from fear into trust?
Like you said, being present and
Mm,
being and looking around and pick an item. I pick up my phone. I'm like, I am grateful I have this phone.
mm,
I'm grateful I could communicate. I'm grateful that I can use it. I'm grateful that I'm able to pay the bill. I'm grateful for this phone.
mm,
Okay. And just pick, even if it's stupid items all around you, just one at a time.
mm.
And that will bring you the energy of gratefulness. And then you will have the energy that comes automatically with gratefulness of wonder.
Yeah,
Because then you look around, you're like, you walk out and you're like, oh, look at this beautiful flower. Everybody calls it a weed. But look at the color, look at the beautiful yellow, look at this. And it just creates a different space within you and around
yeah. Well, it's one thing to be grateful for things in
Right.
your space, but it's not so easy to be grateful for people around you. You know, and you have sometimes difficult relationships and drama, and and there's all kinds of victimhood and judgment and blame and
Mhm.
shaming. That comes from our patterns of where we feel we're not good enough or don't deserve enough, and then project that on someone else, and then they're not good enough, and they they manipulated me to somehow be who I am today. And that energy of blaming and shaming and projecting takes away from the gratitude, from the wonder of who I am. So, what if we could take every relationship in our life
Mhm. Mhm.
and be able to find something to be grateful for? How is that bring?
Oh, that's a big shift.
Yeah.
That's a big shift. I had to go through it. I've had a couple of divorces where, of course, you get into that because you're hurting, so you start blaming and you did this, you didn't do this, and then one day I just sat down and I said, I am grateful for each one of them. I'm grateful for my first husband who gave me my three kids. I'm
Mm,
grateful for my second husband because he showed me that not everybody is the same way with their family. So I learned how I wanted to be with my kids and my family
mm,
that way.
mm,
And it also made me grow because I found my voice
mm.
and I was able to speak. I wasn't that victim anymore.
Right.
So every
You can't be a victim and be a master at the same time.
you can't have both. You can't serve two masters, as they say,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we all people look at me and say, "Oh my God, you're all together," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I've been through the dark side. I've been through that shadow, and there are days when you still have to go through that shadow to shed a little more. It isn't all, oh, you had it easy.
Well,
No,
people talk about the dark night of the soul, and
yes.
rather than seeing it as something negative, it's
Mhm.
actually a gift. It's the ability to slough off, to shed identities that no longer serve us. So
Right.
emotions may come up, conditioning may come up,
Mhm.
relationships may come up that we need to shed. This is all
Right.
part of the work.
Exactly.
Jobs that we've been stuck in, which no longer give us joy and freedom. So it's about
Mhm.
the dark night is about bringing those up into awareness, so then we can make choices. And
Exactly.
it's not easy because we get attached to something that's familiar, something that's safe. But the
Mhm.
dark night is about shaking things up,
Yes.
whether it's on a
I
personal level or on a collective level.
I usually equate it or put it as envision person take pepper shaker,
Mm.
shake it up, and then start
Spread
spreading
it
it all
around.
around. Just
Mm.
let that dark pepper go,
Yeah,
and they understand it. They laugh about it, and they get it that sometimes we need to just
mm.
recycle ourselves, right?
Right, right.
It's like you take a shower every day. It's the same thing. You're just shedding it and cleansing in a different way.
Mm. Well, that also brings up, what's going on in the United States right now as a nation. So, as a country, is going through its Pluto return. So,
Mm-hmm.
1776 was the birth of that nation, and Pluto is a 248-year cycle. So,
Mm-hmm.
right now, it's exactly at the position it was in the birth chart
Yeah,
of the United
right.
States, which means, and Pluto is a planet representing death, rebirth, transformation. But as long as there's unfaced shadows, they're going to come up.
Yeah.
I sense that's going on big time right
Yes.
now.
It is big time. Where those that are paying attention are seeing, oh, okay, that had to come up, that had to come out into the public, that had to be worked through, and then get done with whatever has to get done. And okay, wait, let's move to different a different way of looking at things and a different way of doing things. So
Yeah.
it is amazing how we don't realize it, but everything has cycles, and we just got to be willing to go with them.
Mm. Mm. Well, I do trust that there's a higher plan, that there are beings that are here to support us through this dark night. We're not alone. Um, and we're going to make it through. I really feel that and trust that we are going to make it through. And like you said earlier, Glenda, I don't think this is the time that we have to go through the kind of catastrophe that we had to go through in the past. And I do sense that the timing of this shift is close.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's even 25, 30 years ago away. I think
Right.
it's closer than a decade,
Mm.
as I feel it and sense the energies. But it can be graceful as
Mm-hmm.
long as we are willing to face those shadows, to trust something beyond, to connect with the heart and soul of Mother Earth, and to
Mm-hmm.
participate in this as a midwife, as a rather than as a victim. I
Exactly.
think victim consciousness is the biggest obstacle we have in this awakening journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Even I just having a conversation yesterday with this woman who her parents came from another country, and she says to me, when my parents got here, they took whatever job was available that was legal
Mm,
to get ahead. And it isn't like, a lot of people now that, oh no, Burger King is too below me. But you're starving, you're not paying your rent, you're that. I would take that job until the better job comes along.
mm,
Who knows? Maybe you'll move up to management if you and, we were just talking about that. You just have to do what you got to do to get a goal, and your goal spiritually is to be the best that you can be and be returned to who your true self is.
yeah,
So you might have to go through a few dark nights
right.
of the soul, and you might have to shed. You might have to cry. Sometimes we just have to cry and release some of that energy.
Yeah,
But once you release it, you'll like, okay, why was I so wound up about it?
right.
And work through it.
Yeah. I think the COVID years were a part of the cleansing process. It forced people to go into their own homes, into their own cave, into their own heart, and
Mm-hmm.
go through the shadows, all the fears that came up, the frustrations that came up, the anger that came up. All right, it's not something you need to project, it's something you need to recognize as part of
Mm-hmm.
your own journey and then integrate it. So I feel like it has been, despite all the other aspects of it, yes, I'm not denying that there was a lot of manipulation and,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know that, but
this stuff. But despite all of that, the gift in that was
mm-hmm.
entering into that cocoon of
Yeah,
human consciousness. And now the time has come to break out of that cocoon, to become the butterfly,
yes.
to recognize that we have wings to fly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And get to where we're meant to get to.
Yeah.
Some couples recognized that they were not good together, and they were just basically roommates, and they discovered that they needed to split to continue their soul journey. And
Mm,
other partnerships became closer and became more united. I felt that if you recognize and you were able to work within yourself, you were able to see who you really, if you were in the right place or not,
Mhm.
and if you were with the right partner or not, and take from that point on, take the steps that you needed to get to where you needed to, where you needed to be, so you could be you.
Right,
There's a lot of couples that ended up separating, which truthfully, that was the best thing for both people.
right, right.
They
Yeah,
they
so
they're
it's like you're finding a vibrational match,
right.
one way or the
Exactly.
other.
Exactly.
Well, the other thing that the last 3, 4 years has been about is a lot of people getting sick, a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it was COVID, whether it had to do with other issues that we won't talk about on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
something that, you know, ultimately is a soul choice,
Right.
and ultimately is part of a separation that's going on between timelines, as you know, we could call it timelines, we could call it Gaia's destiny. But
Right.
the way I would state it is that, there's a timeline that has to do with the fulfillment of Gaia's
Mm-hmm.
plan, and
Mm-hmm.
another which is trying to, hold on to um, a consciousness that isn't supporting her anymore.
Right.
Um, so if you're trying to hold on to something that's not supportive anymore, we don't
Mm-hmm.
we don't get to stay in the same
Exactly.
body, the same consciousness.
You know, I felt that a lot of souls decided to leave
Mm,
using COVID as the excuse, if that makes sense.
yeah,
And they were tired. They
right,
didn't want to they didn't want to continue the fight anymore. So they kind of welcomed
right,
the
right,
the the bath, so to speak.
yeah,
And they're like, yeah, no, that's too dense for us. We found this opportunity, we went.
exactly. And that's okay. Then they get to come back in new bodies, which are
Exactly.
genetically more capable of holding the high vibrational field that Gaia is moving towards.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm a big believer that this is our opportunity to not only help Gaia, but
Mm,
help every living thing everywhere. Because if we
mm,
raise our vibrations here, help Gaia raise hers, everything else will benefit. It's like, you throw the pedal in the middle, little rock in the middle of the pond, and you see the waves.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, is there a final message that you would want to share with people? So, if you could just interdimensionally tune into Gaia's presence, you know, and then communicate as Gaia, what would you want to say?
I would like to acknowledge those that are trying to help, those that are willing for the change, those that are coming with me, those that are taking the steps to help. Don't lose faith. Don't lose trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in the process. Allow yourself to be where you truly are, as I see you. Beings of light, beings of greatness, beings of love, togetherness, and oneness. I am here. I love you. Okay.
Thank you, Glenda.
Thank you. Appreciate being here. Many blessings.
Would you like to share a website or way that people can reach you?
Oh, sure. It's glendasmagicalcreations.com. I am all over the place, but you could definitely find me there. Thank you again. And if anybody has any questions or anything, I'm always, I always answer my emails. So
Great.
thank you.
Well, thank you, Glenda.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening and participating in whatever ways. And blessings on our shared journeys.
Thank you. Blessings.